Unfair headlines for the Prince of Wales. We'll let you decide.
Plus, one of Meghan Markle's guests gets officially uninvited to her girls' retreat. How rude. Welcome to Heirs and Spares, the show that dives into the fascinating world of two of the most recognized royal couples from both sides of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and I'll be bringing you updates on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle from the United States.
And I'm Rupert Bell, and I'm in the UK, and I'll have all the news on what's going on with the Prince and Princess of Wales. And I'm sure I'm going to have some thoughts on what's going on with that couple in California.
You always do. That's why we love you. All right, so the Prince of Wales has received millions of pounds of public money from an abandoned prison that was closed due to toxic gas levels. This is a piece coming from the Times, and I mean, it's a pretty aggressive headline. Prince William makes 2.5 million from taxpayers for renting unusable prison. The Duchy of Cornwall, the estate which provides a private income for Prince William, owns HMP Dartmoor and has leased it to the Ministry of Justice for 1.5 million over a million a year since December 2023. But over the past 20 months, the lease has generated at least 2.5 million in income. The Category C prison in Devon has been empty since July 2024 because of high levels of toxic gas that occurs naturally in soil and rocks. And these were recorded in prisoners' accommodations. So very concerning. I feel like once you listen to the response from the Duchy of Cornwall, you're like, is this, should we be putting this on Prince William or be being critical of Prince William? Because they simply say the lease of HMP Dartmoor reflects long-standing arrangements governing the site and was negotiated on a standard commercial basis with both parties taking independent advice. We remain in regular contact with the Ministry of Justice as it determines the future of the prison. I mean, sounds pretty standard to me, Rupert. Are we just being like highly critical about this in the media because Prince William's name's attached to it? If this were any other business, would we be pitching a fit over it, do you think?
I know what we have to understand. The thing, I suppose, the only concern would be, what are they going to sort it out? I mean, that may be, and whose responsibility is it to sort it out? So I'm not suggesting it is a normal commercial business. Dartmoor is always sort of known as a pretty tough prison back in the day. It isn't where it says it's down in the West Country, pretty bleak. But obviously that's for the Duchy of Cornwall and the Ministry of Justice to work out what to do with it. It's not something that would probably be on the Prince of Wales's in tray because it is, the Duchy of Cornwall is a vast arrangement of businesses, the length and breadth of the land, but obviously it is just as when the current king, his source of income. He derives his income from the Duchy of Cornwall. But so I suppose the question is, it's sitting unused. There is a prison crisis in this country in that we are short of space. Surely, maybe something needs to be done to resolve this issue. Now, I have no idea what the toxic gas problem is, how they resolve it, I know not. But to actually say anything about the Prince of Wales with regard to this, I think is stretching credibility. It is something actually that the Ministry of Justice should be looking at. Well, do we terminate? What do we do? Because obviously that, just as any other business, if it's no longer fit for purpose, what can happen to that particular site? And I think that's the issue at stake here, not whether the Prince of Wales is getting rent for 1.5 million. There's a more, I think there's actually what they need to do, Kinsey, is resolve what's happening to the site. And that will put the whole thing to bed one way or another.
Yeah, you can just tell that somebody's like, how do we make this story sexier? Well, we're gonna slap Prince William's face all over it because nothing says, you know, the slammer, I guess, and toxic gas.
Yeah.
Like, no, no, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're on my page there, on the same page with me there. Prince William and Catherine are taking a step back from the public eye this April to spend time with their children. Now, you and I had this discussion a couple of weeks ago, a
Yeah.
very similar headline, and you said we could see them at Easter. I don't expect to see them at Easter, but we could see them at Easter. So you have said a couple of times that you want to manage our expectations. You have felt like they're not just going to disappear. And there they were at Easter. So I think that um, in a similar vein here, as we were preparing to record, you said, I anticipate seeing Prince William throughout the celebrations of his grandmother's life. So these headlines might be a little premature, potentially.
Well, I think where the sort of people might be saying there is criticism is that he disappears. Yes, they saw him on Easter Day, and the children are still on their holidays. And that obviously is perceived as sacrosanct in his eyes, and he keeps his work to a minimum and or his public facing work to a minimum. And that's where the issue, I think people say, well, as I've said before, other people have to work during the Easter holidays. Is the Prince of Wales any different? Do you see what I mean? Or Princess of Wales any different?
I
As
didn't
people,
tease this correctly because
yeah,
what Rupert's reacting to is the headline itself, which
um,
is Prince William, Kate Middleton prioritize family amid royal workload criticism. So that's why our Rupert's gone
yeah,
into defense mode here and
yeah.
is defending them. So I apologize for not teeing you up properly,
Yeah,
sir.
well, no, no, no. I think no. In a way, I think we have to accept that they disappear. As I say, it's school holidays. But I know, and like probably most of people, people who've got children who are at school. I don't know how long the Easter break is in America. State schools have a couple of weeks here in this country. Private schools tend to have a longer break, and that's why those children don't go back till next week. And that will also coincide with the fact that we are going to be celebrating with various events the centenary of the Queen's birth back in 1926. And there are various things being done. They're going to be unveiling the memorial and all sorts of things that are going to be around that to celebrate what would have been her 100th birthday. And I'm sure, I'm not that I've had it confirmed, I'd be very surprised if the Prince and Princess of Wales certainly went on hand at something along that. But I think where it does come, that's why I have to sort of tread a fine line because I don't know what's going on behind the scenes in terms of is he doing desktop work around being with his children, which
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he would be doing, but we just don't see him in a public facing role. Now, I don't, and obviously have how much time have they spent at Amno Hall? And as we've said before, so we just don't know. And that's where people come up with the criticism of, it's all, he can afford to just sort of disappear for every school holiday.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of other people saying, well, I can't afford to not work for that time. So I think, do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, yeah.
And he's got to get the balance right, and he's got to be aware that it's there are in this country everybody if you're having to work and scrimp a living, it's quite hard to take suddenly 3 weeks off and disappear and not do a thing but he obviously is in a different set of environments, a different set of circumstances. So I'm pretty sure there will be work going on behind the scenes, but we just haven't seen him. And I am equally convinced that once the children go back to school, he'll be back out doing his stuff. So
Can I just say that
let's just.
I feel so overwhelmed by Harry and Meghan shoving themselves down our throats that I feel like the balance that the Prince and Princess of Wales currently have is perfect. I don't see too much of them. I see enough of them. I don't see too much of them. When I do see them, I'm pleasantly surprised. At Easter, I was so excited to see them. And it's like that mystique that we constantly talk about, that the royal family navigates so well, that there's some mystery there. So we wonder and we're curious and we care. Whereas Harry and Meghan popping up at a Netflix party with Ted Sarandos, like we're like, could you two keep your asses at home? Who's watching
Uh,
your kids? You know what I mean?
and yeah, and they're off to Australia, and more of
Yeah.
that later.
Oh,
But I don't know when they're seeing their kids. He's nipping around the country. So yeah, we see sort of isolated moments, but at all times, that's when we came to the Easter message last week. We saw um, William, we saw the Prince and Princess of Wales at a family service. But then of course they went and grabbed the headlines with the sort of running around chasing chickens or the Easter bunny or whatever it was they were doing on an Easter bunny hunt. So, and then, obviously they popped up at another party in Montecito. She was at, I don't know, has she been at another award ceremony? He's been giving speeches. I mean, I don't know how much time they're spending with the children. So, and then they're going to Australia, which, as we know, is not next door. So I don't know. I think it's easy to have it. Again, you see, this is where the criticism of the royal family is and it's quite interesting. Um, we've seen a sort of change, around some of the headlines around Andrew recently saying, why is he's the sort of low-hanging fruit and the big victim of around the Epstein fallout? Yet, surely there are other people. And so there are all these negative headlines. So it seems like, they, from a sort of, while we're never agreeing with anything that Andrew did or allegedly did, you have to say, has it gone too far when he's always protested his innocence? And so, and the royal family get a series of negative headlines. So what we saw at Easter was sort of slightly refreshing in the sense that it was the ones, sort of introducing Peter Phillips to his new bride. We saw Peter Phillips's children from his marriage to Autumn, and then you see other members of the royal family enjoying an Easter break and an Easter service. So this is where the royal family is always having to deal with people wanting to find the negative. And that's their problem. And how they stem the flow of these negativity, well, it's a tough one. The PR game in for the modern royal family is one that is firmly seems like to have be choppy waters around somewhere, and so it's extremely difficult for them. And Prince William is no exception to that. People are looking to find something and say, well, why don't we see him? Why is he suddenly entitled to disappear for 3 weeks and not do anything? Therein lies the PR problem for the Prince William. He damned if he does, and he damned if he doesn't. So um, it's a very difficult one to get the balance right. But I'm sure William's aware of it and is mindful and will want to be getting back out to be public facing once again because, as the Queen always said, they need to see us. That's our mantra. We need to be out there because if we're just locked behind a door and living in an ivory tower, then that's how you lose the British public. So, for William's perspective, he's got to get back out there and once again see him doing what he's done and was doing so well before the Easter break.
well, Meghan took the Queen's advice about needing to be seen to an extreme, okay? Because like you said, she's heading to Australia. God love us. God
Uh,
save Australia. And one beauty influencer claims she was disinvited from Meghan Markle's retreat over her media history, over writing in the past about boots like that are perfect for your calves and the best new blow dryers. So her name, or so it says, a beauty influencer claims she was abruptly refunded and disinvited from Meghan Markle's struggling Sydney wellness retreat after organizers discovered she had worked in media. Her name is Ariana, and she appeared in lifestyle segments for Australia's Seven News. She said she was booted despite paying for a personal ticket to attend as a fan, even though the event isn't sold out. And she gave some examples of previous work, and it's literally like, these boots are cute. I love this new blow dryer that's available for purchase now. It's not Meghan Markle is the worst. It's not any sort of hard-hitting not that's not I'm not being critical, but it's not like she's an investigative journalist that they're trying to protect Meghan Markle from. Does this surprise you, this media blackout to such an extreme for Meghan Markle's retreat?
Well, she's trying to paint it that it's going to be a sensational weekend and wants to make sure she's got total control over the PR story. But the whole build-up to this Australian trip, it seems to be fraught with negativity. Talking about, Prince William and Catherine having negativity around not being work seen for during the Easter period. This Australian trip seems to have gone down like a lead balloon with the Australian people, and people I've spoken to can't believe what's going on. There's talk of that the Australian government are now having to pay their security, which does seem, is it a royal tour? Is it not a royal tour? What's going on here? You know, it is for financial gain. The whole thing. Yes, they're going to be going to a football match. They may be going to a homeless place. So that's trying to. So it's all, but that's playing the royal tour game,
Hmm.
and that's what I find so objectionable. Is he still wants to think he's on some quasi royal tour and doing, and thinks it will go down like his trip in 2018, which Meghan complained about, saying, why wasn't I paid? I think wasn't that the trip? Why wasn't I paid? And they made me do things I didn't like doing, even though the Australian public were delighted to see them. So I don't get it. And then this wellness retreat. I mean, God, of course, I'm nowhere near the target market, and I could think nothing worse of hearing 2 days of word salad as we sit trying to discover ourselves. I mean, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't want to sound like a curmudgeon, and I'm sure if these people want to spend that money to feel the Meghan vibe, then who am I to
Meghan
argue?
vibe.
Uh, then go with it. But
Hey, but
I,
will you talk to me a little bit about that article you sent me? You sent me a really
oh,
good article from Australia, and it was an opinion piece, and I thought that
it,
that really kind of
yeah.
set the scene, set the mood.
Well, I read someone I just saw online, some Australian columnist. I'm not sure from which paper, but it basically said, Megan, almost like sling your rook. We don't need you, right? Because, what is the point? The essence of the article. What is the point of this visit
By
when you're
Susie
not
O'Brien.
what?
Susie O'Brien.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, and
Oh, well, yeah, this is
yeah,
what a
yeah.
headline.
We don't want Harry and Meghan tour de farce, which is absolutely right, because it is a farce. I mean, just don't try and sugarcoat it. You're going to make money. I assume Harry's being paid to talk at something about, you
Mental
know,
health. Mental
mental
health.
health. Oh, here we go again. Look, I mean, and here is a man who's got everything in his world, and now he's telling people how to live. He's got every privilege, yet this man doesn't seem to be able to see the wood from the trees and sort of be self-aware enough. And yet, so this article summed it all up in a nutshell. That they, finding it slightly just, distasteful, the whole thing. And the fact is finding it appalling that even the government or the state government are having to fork out for their security so that they can feel sort of self-important. Look at all the bells and whistles. We need everything. So I'll be intrigued to know what the press comes out of Australia about it and how the Sussex team manage it to try and make it look like what a rip-roaring success this has been. Look, we are being missed. I can't see, like last time, people turning out in their maybe hundreds or thousands or whatever it was for their trip in 2018. I'm pretty sure in Australia there is a huge degree of apathy and think, there are more important things going on in the world at the moment than the arrival of the Duke and Duchess of Montecito to come and grace our country with their presence and tell us how to live our lives.
Rupert,
Yeah,
you, um, just to that point, did you see the leaked like Q&A that Harry and Meghan's publicist put together before the trip? And it says specifically like no walkabouts. And
yeah,
everybody's interpreting that as they know realistically the honeymoon phase is over. And they're saying no walkabouts because they don't want somebody like you or I to be like, look, no one showed up for them.
Yeah.
So they want to be able to say, well, no, no, we warned people, no walkabouts.
Yeah, yeah, but no, and they will say security reasons, no, they know there is they don't want to be seen because I am sure, back in the day in 2018, there would have been a great deal of hype around it. It would have been given the full promotion, and it was seen as a from the British family and the new member coming in, all good, that on paper. But of course, it wasn't all good because behind the scenes, Meghan just didn't get it. Now she doesn't want to do walkabout. Good God, she wants to meet the people. Oh, heaven forfend. I'm sorry. She's, I don't think she wants to. Because yes, as long as she can have a lovely photo op in a homeless venture,
Yeah.
which again, when you look at what William does, that's pretty deliberate as well.
Oh
William
my
has
gosh, I
made
hadn't
home.
thought about that,
Yeah,
Rupert.
when William and homelessness is his big sort of along with Earthshot are his two big causes and things that he's passionate about. So then you get Harry going on a quasi royal tour, stealing his brother's thunder. And I think, man, what are they going? I don't know what else they're doing, but all in all, they want to control the whole thing from a PR perspective. They do this the whole time. You're not allowed to ask them any questions of peace. I mean, this is where this word salad get together in this hotel. I mean, I just want to know is what's the point of these things? And I want to know the thought process of the people who have paid the whatever sum it is, what they think they're going to get out of it. Because from Meghan's point of view, yes, she'll have a few photo ops and say, look how wonderful. But does she really care?
No.
Maybe I'm wrong. But does she's care, thinks that she's the great lifestyle guru,
Yeah.
right? With the As Ever and trying to launch the As Ever in Australia. Well, I'm afraid I take a deeply cynical view to that, that she is not the lifestyle guru. There are much better people who know, who've earned their corn, and telling people on learning and helping people, whether it be cooking shows, what to do with furniture ideas and all these things. Meghan, it's just seen as a means to an end. And where's the heart in it? No, this is just seen as a if she was really convinced by it, she would be happy and thought she was doing a good job. She would want people to see what she's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And she
It don't you? Yeah,
it's they're very careful in the way too when they do these faux royal tours where they take one assigned reporter,
yeah,
typically from People Magazine or Harper's Bazaar. It's a respectable publication that is good to them and gives them nice, glossy stories. And that person is expected to report out to everybody else what they've seen that day. You talk about the extent of control that they try to have over these things, and it's it's unrealistic. It's unrealistic. Somebody's going to capture a moment that's, where Harry and Meghan look tense, or there's just go
yeah.
ahead. Oh yeah, oh,
What I'm
cell
going to
phone, yeah.
you see my point is, what are the people? Will they be told to hand in their cell phones?
I'm sure at
Are
the
they?
retreat. I'm sure at the retreat, yes, because they say that
Yeah,
there's supposed to be no recording or anything. And I'm like,
yeah,
if I'm paying $3,000, I need to be able to document what I've just experienced for
yeah.
$3,000. I'm sorry.
And also, there will be, yes, there's going to be a photographer there, so you'll get your photographic moment with Meghan. Whoop-de-doo. You know, that's fine. But, no one will be sitting there going, well, here's my mobile phone. Well, I don't know. I'd be curious to know. What's the rule? Look, sometimes, you'll no mobiles, no recordings. Look, you go into the theatre. When I went to no recording of that or anything. I get all that because there's copyright issues. But in Meghan's case, this is about
Ego.
trying to make sure ego and there's no negative headlines because if someone puts out something and then you hear some absolute guff or, filming empty rooms or
Oh well,
whatever,
and
uh,
look. Let's just give them all a heads up. You're probably going to hear the
yeah,
damn soap story, ladies. For three
yeah,
thousand dollars, you're going to hear the damn soap story all over
yeah,
again. And poor Rodney King, he's going to be like, what do they say? Your ears, when your ears are itchy, it's because someone's
yeah.
talking about you. Poor Rodney King's going to be like, is Meghan Markle talking about me again?
Oh,
Oh my
well,
God.
she's going to be telling that how wonderful she is and the brand. And I think this article, I read another article saying about launching some of these products. The candle. What was the candle that she burns in her home? It's got some really wacky combination that it doesn't sound very nice, but this is the smell of her home.
Yeah.
Um, you know, uh, and then there's sort of the box of tea and everything going for quite punchy Australian dollars when she launches it. I just, I can't see Australia. Yeah, is very loyal in the main to the royal family in this country, but they want loyalty. And just what we've seen from the Sussexes is the kind of thing they know loyalty and the kind of sort of endless sniping at members of the royal family that's got them in hot water. And I'm sure we're going to be talking about it with the Centre Barley charity
Yeah,
and all these things.
we should move on to that soon.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Australia, of course, I'll be keeping an eye on it, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it, and we'll have a view, and we'll just say, I think we'll be going, well, we told you so.
Yeah.
But I'm always happy to always be proved wrong.
Yeah. Yeah,
Aren't you?
we love learning new things. So
Yeah.
we're happy to be pleasantly surprised by anything.
It's like you showed me a picture of some strange animals outside your parents' house, which I can't even remember the name of.
Javelina,
What
javelina,
are they? What are they?
javelina, javelina.
Javelin. What do you do with a javelina? Do, do,
Uh, you
do they
don't
have a
eat it.
purpose?
They stink, so you avoid them.
Oh, javelina. So why have you got them outside your parents' house in deepest Arizona?
They just like move around in herds. They just move around.
So that currently there's a horrible smell outside your house, is there?
Yes,
Your
yeah.
mother's house. Oh, well, I'm sorry about that.
But they're
Oh,
so
no.
cute. They're so cute. If you somehow haven't heard of Beam's Dream Powder, where have you been? We literally love Beam on Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. Now listen, does this sound like you, night after night, the same story, tossing and turning, staring at the ceiling, and relying on coffee to get through the day? Yuck. That's what makes Beam a go-to for better sleep. With Beam, nights feel more restful without the tossing and turning, and mornings start with real energy, not grogginess. Dream is made with a powerful blend of all natural ingredients: reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin. Plus, it tastes amazing. The cinnamon cocoa flavor is a must try and the perfect treat before bed. Beam has already helped 28 million nights of sleep for people across the country. So, if you've been waiting for the right time to try Dream, this is it. Go to shopbeam.com/Kinsey. Use code Kinsey to get my exclusive offer for up to 40% off Beam's Dream Powder. So, my discount code is Kinsey. You can get their best-selling dream powder for just $39. Stop pretending that you're still in your 20s and that you can survive a whole day without a good night's sleep. Place your order for Beam and see the difference. Let's talk about
Yeah,
Cinnabale because I was really
yeah.
shocked by this. The charity seeks the court's intervention, protection, and restitution following a coordinated adverse media campaign conducted since March 25th, 2025 that has caused operational disruption and reputational harm to the charity, its leadership, and its strategic partners, Cinnabale said Friday in a statement on its website. A spokesperson for Harry said the pair, him and his friend that are getting in trouble for libel, said that the pair categorically reject these offensive and damaging claims. The latest is the Charity Commission said it has been engaging with trustees at Cinnabale after being notified of its intention to sue Harry. It said it was seeking to understand how the legal action would further their charity's purpose. Man, Dr. Sophie Shandaka is a tough cookie. How Prince Harry thought he could go up against her truly blows my mind.
Yeah, and I read somewhere that actually they are regrouping, and the whole point of what Sophie was saying to the Prince Harry is, you have created the problem for us to sell the charity, and we, that, and I think it's come as a bit of a surprise that it's ended up, that she is suing them. I wasn't expecting that. I don't know whether you were, but obviously we knew there was bad blood and obviously a breakdown of relations. And yes, there was a real concerted effort to sort of paint her in a bad light. And as you allude to, she does not shirk a challenge.
Right.
And and I think the aims of what she was trying to do with the charity is to make it feel like it's a proper African charity with, at the heart, the people of Africa, not glad-handing around um, Florida polo fields, right? So and that is where I think so. We need to make sure it has a real sense of Africa and what we're aiming to do, because the essence of the charity is good. Alluded to that to Harry, you are causing me problems because of your sniping. And he, of course, can't see that because he thinks he's the victim. And yet he can't be aware that actually negative stuff has an impact. And if Centre Bali is one of his high profile roles, and people are saying, well, I don't like your president, whatever his official title is, we don't like what he's doing. Well, we don't feel that we can support it. And he should have had the good sense in saying, okay, well, we need to look, but no. And then it appears there was I don't know how it happened. There was obviously some people making the team at Centre Bali feel pretty uncomfortable, that they felt that they needed to say, we're going to sue. And more importantly, I think I read somewhere that it's not coming, someone is prepared to back them rather than have an impact on the foundation's funds,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
You are correct
I
because Harry was complaining, saying that he was horrified that
Yeah,
they would be using
yeah,
Senebale funds to sue him, and they came back and said, "Don't worry, someone else is fronting this."
yeah.
And his response was, "Why can't they just donate that money to Senebale? Why are they using it to sue me?"
Because they feel the impact, because he needs to be taught a lesson if he's found guilty, if he has done something wrong.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he won't see it. So he's going to have a lot of questions to answer if it gets to court,
Mhm.
and whether there will be, an out of court settlement. Because if the lawyers for Harry and Mark Draper and the the defendants, they've got to work out, is it worth the negative publicity for another court case that Harry is involved in?
And think about
Because
it. Consider this. This would be the first time Harry didn't instigate something where his words and actions would be challenged and he would have to answer for them. He's never had to do that before. Calls the royal family racist. Then when he's challenged with it by Tom Bradby says, "I didn't do that." No, the media did that. When Anderson Cooper asked him why he still uses his title. He didn't want to answer. He said, why shouldn't I? Why does it matter?" Like this would be the first time he would be forced to answer questions and be held
and
accountable.
And I'm sure the lawyers that Centre Barley have, there will be attack dogs. They will make him, so it won't be, it will be uncomfortable. Now, we
And
don't
remember,
know.
Sophie Shandaka claims that Harry went behind her back and was talking to existing fundraisers or our existing donors. While she was trying to fundraise, Harry was going behind her back to existing donors and convincing them not to give her money because he was saying, inevitably, I'm going to get her out. But he wanted her to look bad at her job so that he could force her out. But creating this conflict, and if I'm a donor, I don't have time for this drama. I don't have time for
No.
this BS. And I'm taking my money elsewhere because this just looks messy. And I don't know who would come out a winner in this scenario. But if there is proof, emails, texts, voicemails, if there is proof that Harry was working behind her back, then when she was telling um, Sky, I believe, that he was trying to sabotage his own charity, it appears so, in my opinion, if you are telling people not to donate because you just don't like Dr. Sophie.
Well, this is again part of, all the sort of defamation and the feeling the negative impact it's had on the charity, which is desperately sad because I'm sure its intentions were honourable, and obviously for Dr. Sophie and her team, they still want to be able to operate, but in an environment that enables them to work properly without it turning into a media circus.
Mm.
Which Harry, even that polo, when now we seem to be dissecting who did what on that dais and everything. And, Sophie was pushed to one side. Meghan, wanted to be center stage, and, the sort of bad blood between the two of them, it's all rather unsavory. But once again, that seems to be what happens around the Sussexes. That sort of bad karma appears out of the blue, when you think everything is looking very nice, but then it doesn't take long when you peel back the covers and then you suddenly find, oh, heck, what's going on here? And this will be, I wonder, do you think it will come to court, or will there be a settlement?
I think Harry's team would advise him on a settlement to ensure that there are no embarrassing headlines or I mean, I think that Harry does not want to be put in the position of having to answer questions. He never does. He's avoided it for
Yeah.
6 years.
Yeah, and so I feel that this will get resolved. They're out of court, so that people can move on. But it's certainly a shot across the bows for Harry and Mark Draper, I think it is, who's the
Dyer,
other
Mark
other
Dyer.
Dyer, Mark Dyer. Mark Draper is someone. That's,
Mark
where did
Draper
that name
sounds
come?
very handsome, though. I mean, what a handsome name.
Well, I don't, I think I know a Mark Draper. I can't
Right?
possibly comment with, but anyway, in a way, they're the ones who've then got to say, well, is it worth it? And if they've got the charity at heart, they might just say enough's enough and okay, let's just cut our cloth. If the evidence is such that is presented to them by the Centre Barley team, who must feel they've got a case
Oh,
to
yeah.
go this far. You don't do these sort of things lightly,
No.
or you shouldn't. And I don't think Dr. Sophie, if you look at her CV, is someone who is, just will sue just for the sake of it. And
Mm-mm.
she's a highly respected, and isn't she a lawyer as well?
Yeah. I mean,
So,
aren't you seeing
you
that when
know,
you read those comments?
yeah, you sort of think, well, she probably might know what she's talking about, and probably could run rings round Harry. And that is the problem for Harry and his team to think, hmm, has he got the, wherewithal to defend his position well, or is it better to just cut our cloth and say we move on?
Are you,
What that means, I don't know.
well, do you agree with Rupert? Do you agree with Rupert? I always agree. I almost,
Eh,
almost always agree with Rupert. Do you
eh,
agree with us, disagree with us? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. And Rupert and I are probably going to overwhelm you with Sussex content next week because they're going to be out in the
if
wild. Out in the
Well,
wild.
not as wild as where you are in the middle of Arizona, which you showed me a picture of where you are. It does look as if you are. There's not too much humanity around you except for these smelly animals, whatever they were called. So I know you're going back to LA later today, but I hope you managed to circumnavigate this herd of Oompa Loompas or whatever they were. What are they called again?
Javelina.
Javelinas. Well, I've never come across them. I probably never will see them in the wild, but safe travels back. And yes, can't wait to see what happens in Australia over the weekend. It should be cringe making, I think.
For sure. All right, we'll see you guys again next week. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, everyone.